Gemini, greetings and salutations, my friends. You are most welcome here. We're just going to get right into the hopes, fears, and reality spread. So, you're aiming really high with your hopes here. You're looking for the recipe for quote-unquote elevation, you know? You want to have a higher vibration. You want to be the best version of yourself possible. You want to break old habits. And it's like, that's just your goal. You're shooting for the highest of the high right now. It's almost like you caught a glimpse of yourself from somebody else's perspective and it became very real. And you were like, you know, I can do better than I have been doing. So that's what you're hoping for. Excuse me. In the fear category, and remember, fear is like an anxiety in this spread. Like it's the thing that isn't, you know, the thing that you're trying to avoid to an extent is you're trying to avoid being independent to a fault. And you're also trying to avoid as coming off as flaky. So what I get from this is the thing that you saw about yourself and you're like, hey, I could do better, is that you went from confident to cocky, right? And you probably told a few people what time it was, and you probably upset you rocked the boat, so to speak, right? And now you're like, wait a minute, I was too, what's the word I'm looking for? Not stern. I was combative. I was independent. I had this. I knew I had it. It had to be my way. So I was combative and independent to a fault, right? To was the point where other people wanted to help or needed to help, and I didn't let them. So now that I'm going to be humbling myself, because that's what we have here, you know, this elevation, having a higher vibration, being more in tune with your environment, is I guess the way I'm going to put it. It does cause you to humble yourself, but you don't feel like you owe anybody an apology, but you're afraid that if all of a sudden you change your tune and you start acting different, that you're going to come off as flaky and fake nice. So there's a lot of anxiety about how you are perceived by others while you're making this change. You're doing this for you. You're not doing it for them, right? But how they're going to perceive you in the process determines the outcome to an extent, because you weren't compromising with people before, and now all of a sudden you have to. It's amazing all of your cards came out in the upright, by the way. So in reality, say the Lovers is about choices, and in this deck it's all about some love, but the Lovers is all about choices. Also, I generally don't point out the astrological significance of a card unless it shows up in that astrological signs reading. So the Lovers is the card of Gemini, okay? So what you're seeing right now with this card when you have choices is you're actually, I'm not getting one independent personal relationship out of this. This is a general read. It could be about a personal relationship. But I feel there's a group dynamic here, right? So when I'm looking at these two people, I'm looking at you wrestling with your shadow self, you coming into terms, you balancing out your masculine, your feminine, your yin, your yang, your shadow side, your light side, however you want to look at it. You know, pick a god you think is fair, like whatever that belief system is and how it is that you balance out your energy. That's what you're trying to do right now, and you're walking away from this imbalance. You were previously working at forcing and controlling, and even though you had an even number, everything didn't stack up just right. Okay? So it was more important to leave behind what you were working on and what you were trying to force to happen, to wrestle with your shadow self in order to aim for becoming a better person. I like what you're doing, Gemini. But it's easier said than done. I think you already kind of know that, because looking at your fear and anxiety, you're like, well, how is everybody going to perceive me if I show up tomorrow with this new attitude? But this new attitude has to start somewhere. And it's not that you were wrong before, so you don't want to apologize to people. It's more that I kind of get this feeling that you're going from being incredibly stubborn to trying to cooperate. Does that make sense? And you're worried that, oh, so it's, card just literally flew out of the deck there. Ooh. It's funny, I said you were going from being stubborn, and here's the Queen of Swords. So the Queen of Swords is like a no-nonsense kind of leader. She's the type of person who says it like it is and doesn't care whose feelings she hurts because she's just spitting facts. It isn't her opinion at all. She's just trying to get down to the facts, right? And she does come off as very stubborn. She does come off as, and she's willing to cut people out of her life who aren't serving her any good. So it's funny how I talk about stubbornness and this pops out. So I'm going to go back to the beginning here. You're hoping to be a better version of yourself. You fear, and here's where I was going with before Queen of Swords popped out. It's not that you fear that people will perceive you as being wishy-washy or fake nice, which is what I thought before. Looking at the rest of the spread and with the Queen of Swords popping out here, I feel that you want to remain independent, and you want to soften your approach, but you don't want people to mistake this kindness, this compromise for weakness, because you will still stand your ground, right? So you fear that if you let up, although you want to let up, that's you working through your shadow side, is finding a new approach at compromising with people. You fear that if you give people an inch, they will take a mile. Like, people will just walk all over you, and then you have to, lay it down again. There's a controlling factor here, it seems like. Again, when I talk about this Eight of Cups, you were trying to force things to be a certain way, and here you are holding on to all of your resources, being trapped in your head, but still being very, very passionate about something, right? So, you know what? I'm going to simplify this whole thing and call a duck a duck. You recognized you were being a stubborn ass, and you don't want to be a stubborn ass anymore. You want to compromise with people. Your big fear is that if you give people a little bit of room, that everybody will walk all over you. So you walking away from being this very, very controlling and very, very stubborn entity, right? This is just this no, this is my line, this is it, nobody will cross it entity, puts you in a position where you literally have to go inside and make a compromise with yourself first. And your image means a lot to you. How you come off to other people is how they are going to approach you. And that is something that you really need to work on. I'm coming up with the same storyline over and over. So what this tells me in these cards is that you are just at the beginning of seeing yourself in a new light. So there's going to be habits that need to change. You're going to have to look at your foundation and your values and your communication system and make that change. And there will be times where people try and push your boundaries, but you have to try really, really hard to remember why you're doing what you're doing and why you want to make this change. There's a difficult journey ahead, Gemini, but I have the faith that you can do it as long as you remember why you're doing it and you stick to your guns. Good luck with this. It will not be easy. I hope you found a message that serves your highest good, and I'll see you next time.